Welcome to the ActivateCX podcast, where we demystify and clarify the direction of CX. My name is Frank Rogers. I'm your host, and I help brands grow with better AI, CX, and self-service. Today, we examine the unifying strength of Ring CX and RingSense with special guest Bob Lenarcik at RingCentral. Let's go. For anybody buying technology, you know that departments can buy completely different and competing products that do the exact same thing. Sales and customer service departments do this on the daily. And today we're going to show savvy buyers how to pare down their CX purchases, get better efficiency, improve experience, and after all, lower costs. Let's bring in Bob Lenarcik from RingCentral. Hey, Bob.
Hi, Frank.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing great. Let's take a couple of moments here in the early stages of our chat and just juxtapose Ring CX and RingSense. And my knowledge of the technologies as we compare them is that Ring CX is the contact center. It's the ACD, it's the Omnichannel, it's the integration into Salesforce or Dynamics. It's an analytics platform in and of itself. So it's got great reporting capabilities and APIs. But RingSense, in terms of like the contact center world, is really the quality management technology that has conversational AI and a lot more. Is that fair to assess it that way?
Yeah, that's a good way to categorize or differentiate the two. And I think the key is conversational intelligence is what we're calling it, which is using AI to extract information about the conversations recorded, either in the sales process or during customer service type of interactions.
So why are they separate? Like, why would you have one product? Why wouldn't they just all be combined into one product?
Well, RingSense is a new core technology platform that we recently introduced, and we're actually delivering it in different ways. One is tailored specifically for sales teams and sales motion. And the other one is designed specifically to deal with or handle interactions that a customer service representative in a contact center would be working with. Now, sometimes salespeople are working in a call center where they're doing like an outbound dialing campaign. So those types of activities would also be tied to potentially Ring CX. But again, the AI model used to extract information and provide insights is different. It's a different AI model.
So that conversational intelligence, it can not only look into Ring CX, but can you point it at other technologies as well?
Yeah, we've designed it so that we can pull recordings from RingCentral UC platform, the RingCentral video platform, as well as RingCentral Contact Center, which is our OEM relationship with NICE, and as well as Ring CX.
Yeah, that's powerful. Probably is the differentiation in terms of why they're separated, in terms of you might buy one ahead of the other.
Yeah, so RingSense is a complementary technology to deploying your contact center solution. And the idea is that if you want to leverage AI and improve the team performance, RingSense is a great add-on to either of our contact center solution products.
So one of the things that is interesting to me is the fact that you've got this additional juxtaposition, right? We talked about Ring CX versus RingSense. And maybe the next juxtaposition is looking at sales and customer support. And I mean, those two particular departments are typically run by different people. And like I said in a little preamble here, that they have their own budgets and sometimes will purchase different technology. But I think of the user story that kind of looks like this, that the sales team, there's a real deep desire to know like what these conversations containing, the conversations with prospects and maybe with existing customers where they're doing upsell. They really want to know the sentiment. They want to know the completeness of these conversations, and they want to have some of that data influence how they're looking at the pipeline. So traditionally in the service department, you might have a contact center solution that's plugged up into, we'll just say, Salesforce Service Cloud. And then maybe the sales department has some of their technology, communications technology. They may have a UC technology plugged into their Salesforce. And then they may also have separately Zoom video calls with Gong IO. And so you've got all these components coming together. It seems to me that with RingSense and with Ring CX, you can collapse all that down into one platform.
Yeah, so we've designed RingSense to be a technology that adds on to both our UC, our video, as well as our contact center solutions. So even though the models may be different based on the use case, the platform at the core is the same. The user interface is the same. A lot of the analytics and tools that the managers and supervisors would be interacting with are familiar. So regardless whether I'm in sales or in support, the UI is the same. The analytics and the core information that I can extract is the same. So from a implementation perspective, user training is easier and simplified. It's consistent across the different use cases,
Right.
as well as, again, tying all the different communication platforms in your business from RingCentral.
So let's take a user story maybe. They're actually really similar between sales and service. And that is a consumer, a prospect or an existing customer goes to a web page. They're reviewing content on the web page. They see that there is a chat capability there. They start a chat conversation and then they elevate that into a video call. So that could happen across sales and across service. And then in that call, you've jumped between two channels. You want to be able to look at the dynamics of that conversation between the two. Is RingSense going to track that in that engagement in Ring CX?
Currently, RingSense is looking at voice conversations. We are working and will be delivering the ability to track digital interactions. So we'll be able to now correlate data from the digital as well as the voice interactions, regardless of the how the customer starts interacting with the agent.
I see, and that's part of a product path that you're working on at the moment.
Yeah, RingSense right now is in controlled release. We're expecting to go general availability sometime in the first quarter of next year.
Okay.
We actually are pushing it out a little bit because we've got some more work to do to address some of the feedback we've been getting from our early customers running it in beta and in controlled release.
Okay, so let's talk specifically about RingSense for sales. And maybe you can describe the user story, describe the componentry, how it's configured differently than how we're going to look at it in RingSense for service.
Well, the configuration is fairly consistent, but the user story, or at least look at who are the consumers or users of RingSense as a platform. From a sales perspective, you look at how a sales team is enabled, right? You've got people who are coming into the organization. They're trained in the methodology the company wants to utilize for their sales motion. So one of the things that RingSense provide is the ability for you to implement what we call trackers, which are the AI looking for certain things to be done in the different sales process and different steps within the sales cycle. So I'm going to look at, like, for example, one of the common ones is a acronym called BANT, budget, authority, needs, and timeline. So those are the things that you're training your agents or your sales reps to start asking questions about. Do you have budget? What does that budget look like? Do you have the authority to make decisions? If not, who are those people? What are your current requirements or needs? Do you have an impending event? Let's say a legacy platform is going end of life and I need to make a replacement. What's that timeline? Again, tied to what the need is. So this is what agents should be following this process. So now we have the ability as a administrator to configure trackers to look for that type of thing. As opposed to if you're looking at customer service, there may be certain things that you want to make sure that when somebody calls in and they're having an issue, how do you address that? How do you acknowledge the fact that you empathize with that customer's frustration potentially? How do you make sure that you're asking if you've resolved their problem? So there's certain things that you want in a customer service motion. So going back to the sales, so we now have the ability for us to configure, or for the administrator to configure, what are we tracking in terms of what's being said during all these different sales motions. Then we look at the manager or the supervisor who now has to look at how is the team performing. Everybody's got a quota and everybody is measured against that number, but then how effective are they at the sales opportunities that they're given to close those deals. What are things they're doing well, what things they need additional coaching on. So one of the examples I usually give is, let's say, for example, I'm training people on a certain set of methodology. And then as I'm tracking with RingSense all the different sales activity around an opportunity, and then looking across multiple opportunities, I'm looking at the win-loss. And then I correlate that to what the AI is extracting across the different conversations for that opportunity. And then I look at, okay, are there certain teams or individuals performing at a higher level than others? Their close rate's higher. So why is their close rate higher? Are they following the sales methodology that we trained them on? And people that are not performing well are deviating from that? Or are the people who are not doing as well following the sales process, but not having as much success as the people who are performing at a top level, but they're doing something different? What is that thing that they're doing different? And how can we incorporate that into our training and coaching for improving the sales team? So it provides a feedback loop for the sales enablement folks. It provides tools for the managers to see, who are my better performers and why. Because again, if quota is the only metric to determine whether a sales rep is doing well, you don't know why they're not hitting their quotas. And obviously replacing employees, whether it's a salesperson or a customer service rep, it's expensive, right? You got to take time to get them source candidates, get them onboarded, train them, and how long is their ramp to be productive. So if you can shorten that ramp time when you do bring new people on, or keep people who are underperforming from leaving because they're frustrated, they're not getting the right feedback and coaching to hit those numbers. Again, it provides a lot of ways to make sure that the team you have is doing as best as they can. And then in some cases, you're also looking at, is my methodology even correct for how I'm closing and winning business?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I would imagine also in combination with that, Ring CX and the knowledge-based componentry and the agent assist capability there kind of works hand in hand with this. So RingSense is doing a post-interaction assessment and providing AI to deliver a proper summary of that particular interaction.
If you look at the analytics that RingSense provides, that requires a huge amount of processing power, and it does require time. So you can do things in real time, but it's limited in terms of the things that it's looking for, how it can look at. Let's say, for example, sentiment analysis. A lot of times it's word choice to determine sentiment. You associate certain words or terms to be negative and certain terms to be positive. But RingSense goes a little deeper. It actually looks at tone of voice and other characteristics of the actual speaker to determine what's going on. Because I can say a word that in some contexts is positive, but if you actually listen to the tone of voice, it actually comes out as very negative. Sarcasm, you can't tell if somebody's being sarcastic by just looking at the words. So that's where RingSense plays a role into providing that post interaction to say, is the guidance I'm providing in real time, really giving you the improvement that you're looking for from the individual contributors.
British humorists must flip this upside down. We set the table for Ring CX and RingSense working together, and RingSense specifically for sales. And so now we're using Ring CX as the contact center in the support side of the business. Now they could be selling things as well. They could also be doing just primary advocacy and ticket support, but nevertheless, they have a version of RingSense for CX is what that's called, correct?
Yes, right. Yes, or RingSense for Ring CX if you want to use the mouthful way, but we're just abbreviating it RingSense for CX.
That's a lot.
True. So what the difference is, when we're looking at RingSense for sales, we're primarily focused on the activity of the employees of the organization, right? So we obviously track what the customer is saying, but when we're looking at evaluating performance of what's going on, it's really focused on the sales reps. RingSense for CX looks at both customer as well as agent interaction to do things like deeper sentiment analysis, determining who's showing frustration or sentiment that's negative or positive, because obviously the agent could be 100% positive, but the customer is really frustrated and taking it out on the agent. And so do you want to understand which agents are handling those frustrated customers very well, or which agents are basically reacting and mirroring some of the frustration and potential anger. Again, when an agent starts to mirror that frustration coming at them from a customer, it no matter what you do, the customer is not going to be happy at the end of that interaction. And then eventually agents, when they start expressing frustration in their day-to-day jobs, they're gonna get frustrated and leave the company and organization. Again, that's an expensive thing to deal with.
Very much.
I saw a stat that on average, companies that have 100 agents, they're spending somewhere between $800,000 and $1 million a year on agent replacement. The cost of replacing and retraining agents that leave. When you're looking at very high attrition rates these days, it's a very high dollar spend on the organization. So anything you can do to reduce that, it's direct improvement in the bottom line.
Yeah, and acquisition costs are much higher as well. So like this
Yes.
cost, everything that you're talking about is fully supported. I mean, and that is quite a statistic. I've heard that same number, and that is pretty profound. If you were able to, let's say, for example, put a dent into that was up to 40%. That savings, that in your analogy right there, was roughly around 400K, and out of that million, that would be right to the bottom line.
Yeah. The survey I saw showed an attrition rate on average of something like above 80%. So again, drop it by half, and that's a hard ROI that's difficult to pass up on.
So with this particular technology now that's being used, let's say, for example, you're an organization and your customer facing group between salespeople and customer service people, let's say that number is right around 40 people. That seems to be kind of the sweet spot, as I understand it, for the Ring CX. Now, it can do hundreds of people, of course, but there's probably more cost sensitivity to the smaller organization that would cause them to pass on going to full contact center functionality, right? Where many times you see the cutting board between a UC product, unified communications. People call it still a phone system, kind of funny, because it's got so much more, right? But ultimately that cutting board between, we'll say $20 or $25 per user for like a fully featured unified communications, and a contact center, which could be $100 to $200 per seat, especially if you have quality management in there and it's got AI capabilities. That's a big stretch. But if we're taking that and taking a big chunk out of the cost of the contact center, then that group that is that 40-person unit can be on the same technology and all be working through having the same benefit of that automated call distribution, the IVR, the Omnichannel, the integration into the Salesforce or the Dynamics, the open APIs. It seems like it's a no-brainer for that smaller organization.
Yeah, and the pricing model for RingSense for sales and RingSense for CX are different. But when you look at, let's say, RingSense for sales, list price, I believe, is $60 per sales rep. When you think about, if I can improve my sales reps' performance by, let's say, close 5% more deals out of my pipeline, what does that mean in terms of bottom line revenue? And you compare that to the cost investment you make in the tool to make that happen. It's again very easy to justify that ROI.
Yeah.
RingSense for CX is list price is $25 an agent. So when you add that to the standard licensing for Ring CX, which is $75 for named agents, so $100 all in for RingSense and Ring CX. And again, if I'm improving my customer satisfaction numbers, again, you alluded to that replacing an existing customer, is much more expensive acquiring a new customer than it is to keep an existing one happy. And the stats showing how easy it is to lose a customer is staggering. I've seen numbers anywhere from 1 or 2 negative interactions causing a 60% loss of customers, and I've seen the number jump to above 90 for up to 2 to 3 negative interactions. So many companies have competition, and consumers just don't have the patience to put up with bad or poor customer service.
Yeah.
So again, if I'm investing in better tools to make my agents more productive, better at handling the customer interactions, it results in keeping those customers, which then directly impacts my revenue, because 3/4 of most companies' revenue come from existing customers.
That's
And
right.
they're cheaper. It's cheaper to keep them happy than it is to replace them.
And I think that's always that's a consistent metric, but it's more profound today in the fact that people are having a harder time acquiring net new business.
Yeah.
And so anything that hits you in terms of existing customer churn is absolutely impactful to the organization.
Yeah, and I think it's incumbent on companies to look at how they invest in the technology to improve individual performance for either sales reps or customer service reps.
Mhm.
Because again, investing in your people, keeping them from leaving, keeping your customers from leaving, closing more business, all have direct impact on your company's revenue.
Mhm.
And so being willing to invest in the technology that can help you improve in these areas is it's an easy thing to justify.
It
And,
is.
and I think it also means that companies need to rethink how they measure agent productivity and performance. Because in a contact center for support, it's usually the metrics like average handle time, um, wait time in queue, abandon rate, and those things are used to measure whether or not the team is performing well. And of course, a lot of companies, they don't want to add additional resources to handle higher call volumes, so
Mhm.
they want to drive handle times down.
Correct.
Well, does that mean you're really solving the customer's problem if you're trying to get them off the phone earlier? Or how do I empower my agents to make sure that they can really handle that interaction on the first call and do it effectively? And then, like we talked about previously with Eric, when you talked to him, AI can help offload some of those mundane, repetitive calls and contacts using AI.
Yes.
um, Allows the agents to now spend more time to really take care of the customer well. And then RingSense provides that feedback loop so that now you can make sure that people are performing to expectations, and that we're training them properly and arming them with the right information.
Yeah. I think average handle time, you bring up some really good points there, that metrics like that in the contact center they're not ultimate metrics, they're penultimate metrics. They provide some insights, predictive insights into where things are going. But to try and wrangle that particular metric to the ground, I think sometimes causes more disruption than it solves. And so if you look at that net promoter score, if you look at CSAT, if you look at retention, customer retention overall, along with those satisfaction scores, I think those are the ultimate measures that you're really looking for. Because when you're trying to fulfill the objectives of the C-suite, for them it's revenue growth, it's gross margin, it's EBITDA, it's all of these types of measures that they're thinking about. They're not thinking about average handle time. And you can get fairly myopic when you focus on some of these measures internally. And I think a lot of bad decisions come from it, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, I think unintended consequences happen a lot when you're focused on those, what I call them trailing indicators of performance, right? And it's not really a measure of performance. It's just giving you some information about things at a very abstract level.
Yes,
And if you focus too much on it, you lose sight of the things that the C-suite really cares about, which is really making profit.
indeed. So talk about one ring to rule them all, because when we're talking about profit, you're trying to optimize your costs. Sometimes people look at cutting costs, but that sometimes can also be a myopic approach to things as well, especially when the cost of what you're paying for provides lift elsewhere in the organization, either increased sales or improved metrics around customer retention or employee retention. There's a lot to it, and I think that understanding ROI in this process is very important. In the event that you didn't see our podcast on ROI with Joanna Palmer, definitely check in our podcast down below and surface that episode. I think it can be very helpful. But let's talk about RingSense and RingCX. In that model, we've already identified it's lower cost than your standard contact center. It allows you to put this inside of your sales team, put this in front of your contact center or your customer support team, and be able to provide a unified experience across the board That's really powerful, because now when we talk about having disparate systems, we're talking about two different implementations, implementation cost, and we're talking about, additional challenges of surfacing data and combining data together, right? Like, this seems to remove a lot of friction.
Yeah, I mean, it was designed so that it's easy to stand up the system, and we're pulling data from all the RingCentral platforms that you communicate with, whether it's video, voice,
Mhm.
or through the contact center. And again, we're going to be adding digital interactions as well, so we'll be able to look 360 degrees across the different ways that people communicate
Mhm.
externally, and then you have a consistent set of tools that you can now put in front of agents and reps to see how they're performing, compare them to the rest of the team. Managers have more insight in what's going on. And it's not just a sample of things, and it's not arbitrary. I mean, AI is supposed to be fairly neutral, and
Mhm.
most companies are trying really hard to make sure there's no bias in their models.
Right.
But we also provide the ability for the humans to provide additional capabilities in the platform. So it's not 100% AI. The supervisors and managers can provide feedback and insight that they're seeing from listening to the conversations themselves. And so it provides a lot more capability across, human as well as AI intelligence.
Yeah, that's outstanding. What, just kind of like off the cuff, has you excited about, Ring CX? What gets you out of your chair and start fist pumping and high-fiving people in your virtual office?
Well, I've been in the contact center space for 20 some years. And if I look at the traditional way that employees are evaluated and the workload that the supervisor has to go through to see whether or not their agents are performing well, I think RingSense provides a level of capability that hasn't existed to date in
Mm.
those traditional ways of evaluating performance. And again, if supervisors can fairly evaluate everything an agent does, agent has the ability to see how they're doing. I think it overall provides better results overall. I mean, I think it's designed to basically, it's the rising tide lifts all boats story,
Mhm.
right? You've
Sure.
always got to have top performers. You're going to have lower performers, but then do you get rid of the lower performers, or you just help get them better at what they do, so make everybody better?
It's fantastic. Well, thanks for being on the show. This was great coverage, and we'll be talking very soon again as you come back on and contribute further.
Thanks. Great to see you.
Thanks, Bob. Hey, there you have it. RingSense actually makes a lot of sense. You can have it on its own and be pointing that at your unified communications, at your contact center, and using it as a quality management solution with the conversational intelligence, or you can combine it in a very powerful way with Ring CX. Now you have all the componentry of a contact center, you have all the QM capabilities, you have AI that's coming to aid you in being able to assess correctly the interactions that are going on with your customers, whether it's in the sales process, whether it's in the customer support process. It's all there, one ring to rule them all. Hey, thanks for joining today. I hope you enjoyed it. If you like it, please like and subscribe down below. And remember, if you want to be successful, let's go get it.